I'm Rebecca Mitchell, 36, and my daughter Lily is the center of my universe. Last year, when she was 9, she suffered a spinal injury requiring emergency surgery. I desperately hoped this crisis would finally bring my wealthy family to show up for us. Instead, they skipped the entire ordeal, then had the audacity to demand $10,000 for my stepbrother's business venture weeks later. When I refused and laughed at the absurdity, my mother actually tried accessing my bank accounts. Family loyalty has its limits, and that day I found mine. Before I dive into this story, drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from, hit subscribe, and join me on this journey of discovering who truly deserves a place in our lives. To understand how my family could skip my daughter's emergency surgery, you need to know our history. I grew up as the middle child in the Hayes family, where wealth and status were the currencies that mattered. Our home in Connecticut looked perfect from the outside. 5 bedrooms, manicured lawn, luxury cars in the driveway. But inside, emotional warmth was scarce. My older sister Diana was the golden child, always following my parents' carefully orchestrated life plan. Private school, Ivy League education, marriage to Eric from another good family, and a career in law that impressed at cocktail parties. My parents beamed with pride at her every achievement and rewarded her compliance with both financial support and approval. My younger brother Adam was the baby of the family, the charming one who could do no wrong despite rarely doing much right. He drifted from college to college, career to career, and relationship to relationship. Yet my parents always cushioned his falls with money and excuses. He's finding himself, they'd say, while writing checks to cover his latest mishap. Then there was me, the family disappointment. I questioned the status-obsessed values they held dear. I chose a state university instead of an Ivy League school. I studied education instead of law or business. I married Jason, a carpenter, without family connections or inherited wealth. Each choice widened the gap between us, turning me into the family black sheep. My mother Eleanor mastered the art of the cutting remark disguised as concern. "Rebecca, dear, have you considered updating your wardrobe? First impressions matter in this world." Or the Mitchell family seems nice. Though I wonder if you've thought about your children's future opportunities. Everything came with conditions. Their love felt transactional, available only when I performed to their standards. My father Walter was physically present but emotionally absent throughout my childhood. He built his real estate development company from the ground up and believed financial provision was the beginning and end of parenting. When I brought home art projects as a child, he'd nod without looking up from his newspaper. When I graduated college, he attended but spent most of the ceremony on business calls. I met Jason during my sophomore year of college. He was working construction on campus to fund his carpentry business dreams. He saw me, the real me, not as an extension of family wealth or expectations. We built a life based on genuine connection rather than appearances. Our modest 3-bedroom house in a middle-class neighborhood felt more like a home than the mansion I grew up in. After 3 years of fertility struggles, we welcomed Lily, our miracle baby. The day she was born, my parents sent an extravagant floral arrangement but left after a 15-minute hospital visit, citing a charity gala they couldn't miss. Diana sent a designer baby outfit with the tags still attached, so we could exchange it if it wasn't suitable. Adam forgot entirely until my mother reminded him 2 weeks later. Despite everything, I maintained limited contact with my family, mainly for Lily's sake. I wanted her to know her grandparents, aunt, and uncles, even if our relationships were complicated. Every birthday, every Christmas, I extended invitations they mostly declined or briefly attended. Lily learned early not to expect much from them, which broke my heart. The dynamics only grew more complex when my father remarried after a brief divorce from my mother in their 50s. They reconciled a year later, bringing my stepbrother Timothy into our lives. Timothy was my mother's new project, the entrepreneur son she'd always wanted. His business ventures failed consistently, but they funded each new attempt, certain the next one would be his breakthrough. Throughout all the years of disappointment, I still harbored a small, stubborn hope that in a genuine crisis, a true emergency, they would show up. That when it really mattered, blood would prove thicker than water. I never imagined testing this theory would come at such a high cost to my daughter. Lily inherited my stubborn determination but channeled it into gymnastics, a sport she loved with every fiber of her being. At 9 years old, she already had a collection of ribbons and medals that she proudly displayed in her bedroom. Her favorite place was the local gymnastics academy, where she trained 3 times a week, her face set in concentration as she mastered new skills. "Watch this, Mom," she'd call out before attempting a back handspring, her small body flying through the air with a confidence that both terrified and amazed me. That Saturday in March started like any other competition day. Lily's hair was pulled back in a tight bun with her lucky purple scrunchie, and she was vibrating with nervous energy as we entered the community center where the regional junior gymnastics competition was being held. "You're going to be amazing, sweetie," Jason told her, giving her a big hug before she ran off to join her team for warm-ups. Everything went perfectly until her floor routine. She had just completed a difficult tumbling pass when something went wrong on her landing. There was a small stumble, and then she fell awkwardly to the mat. The crowd gasped collectively, but Lily bounced back up immediately, finishing her routine with a smile that only her parents could see was forced. "It's just a bruise," she insisted afterward, though she winced when moving. "I don't want to see a doctor." We iced her back and let her rest, respecting her assessment since she'd had minor injuries before. But 3 days later, when she couldn't get out of bed and tears streamed down her face from the pain, we knew something was seriously wrong. "It hurts, Mom," she whimpered, her face pale and drawn. "It really, really hurts." The pediatrician took one look at her and sent us straight to the emergency room. The hours that followed were a blur of tests, specialists, and growing fear as medical professionals exchanged concerned glances over Lily's small form. Finally, a neurosurgeon, Dr. Martin Wilson, called us into a private consultation room. His face was serious as he pointed to the MRI images illuminated on the screen. "Lily has sustained a serious injury to her thoracic spine," he explained. "There's compression and damage to the T10 vertebra that's causing pressure on her spinal cord. Without surgical intervention within the next 24 to 48 hours, she risks permanent nerve damage that could affect her ability to walk." The room seemed to spin as I gripped Jason's hand. "Surgery," I repeated the word, feeling foreign on my tongue. "Yes, and rather urgently," Dr. Wilson confirmed. "We'll need to stabilize the vertebra and relieve the pressure on her spinal cord. It's a complex procedure, but I've performed it many times with good results." As Dr. Wilson continued explaining the procedure, risks, and recovery process, I felt an overwhelming need to have my family around us. Despite our difficult relationship, this was exactly the kind of crisis where family should come together. With trembling fingers, I made the calls as soon as we returned to Lily's room. My mother answered on the fourth ring, the sounds of a social gathering evident in the background. "Rebecca, you rarely call on weeknights. Is everything all right?" Her voice carried its usual blend of curiosity and slight annoyance at the interruption. "Mom, it's Lily!" My voice cracked. "She's in the hospital. She has a spinal injury from gymnastics and needs emergency surgery tomorrow. The doctors say it's serious." There was a pause, and I heard her cover the phone to say something to someone nearby. "Oh dear, that sounds concerning. Your father and I have the Chamberlain Foundation dinner tomorrow night. You know he's receiving the Philanthropist of the Year award." I closed my eyes, pressing the phone harder against my ear. "Mom, this is Lily's health we're talking about. The surgery will take 7 hours, and the doctor said there are risks. We're scared. We need family right now." "Of course you're scared, dear. Anyone would be. I'll see if we can stop by the hospital before the dinner." "What time is the surgery?" 8 in the morning, I replied, already knowing what her response would be. "Oh, that's quite early. Well, perhaps afterward. I'll send a lovely flower arrangement to her room. Children love flowers, don't they? I'll have Diana check in as well." I called Diana next, hoping my sister might understand the gravity of the situation better than our mother. "A spinal surgery? That sounds serious," she said, and for a moment I felt relief that someone understood. "I have that charity gala tomorrow that I've been planning for months, but I could try to come the day after." "Would that work? I could bring Hunter and Madison to see their cousin." My brother Adam promised to definitely try to make it, but mentioned he had tickets to a concert he'd been looking forward to. My stepbrother Timothy didn't even pick up. By the time I finished the calls, I felt hollow. Jason found me staring blankly at the wall outside Lily's room. "They're not coming, are they?" he asked gently, already knowing the answer from my expression. "They all have more important things to do," I whispered, the reality of their choices settling painfully in my chest. When I returned to Lily's room, she looked so small against the hospital sheets, her favorite stuffed elephant clutched tightly against her chest. "Mommy, will Grandma and Grandpa come to see me before my operation?" she asked, her blue eyes wide with a child's innocent hope. I swallowed hard, sitting beside her and smoothing her hair. They're going to try their best, sweetheart. But no matter what, Daddy and I will be right here. We're not going anywhere. That night, as Lily finally drifted to sleep under the influence of pain medication, I stood by her window watching the hospital parking lot, still foolishly hoping to see my family arriving. They never came. The morning of Lily's surgery arrived with a soft pink sunrise that seemed cruelly beautiful given the circumstances. Jason and I had barely slept, taking turns dozing in the uncomfortable hospital chair, while the other kept vigil by Lily's bed. I checked my phone repeatedly, but there were no messages from my family indicating they were on their way. Just silence. At 7:30 a.m., the surgical team came to prep Lily. Nurse Sarah Reynolds was gentle and kind, explaining each step to my frightened daughter in terms she could understand. "This medicine will make you feel sleepy and relaxed," she told Lily as she added something to her IV. "When you wake up, the surgery will be all finished." Lily's small hand clutched mine tightly. "You promise you'll be here when I wake up?" she asked, her voice tiny and vulnerable. Wild horses couldn't drag me away. I promised, fighting back tears. "Daddy and I will be waiting right here." When it was time to wheel her to the operating room, I leaned down to kiss her forehead. "I love you to the moon and back, Lilybug." "Love you more," she whispered, our usual exchange. As they wheeled her away, I felt as though a piece of my heart was being torn from my chest. Jason wrapped his arms around me as I finally allowed myself to cry. "She's going to be okay," he murmured into my hair. "She's strong, just like her mom." The surgical waiting room became our world for the next 7 hours. It was filled with other families in similar situations, all waiting, all worried, all hoping. A middle-aged couple sat holding hands, speaking softly in Spanish. A large group that spanned 3 generations huddled together occasionally, breaking into whispered conversations or prayers. An elderly man paced the floor, pausing whenever a doctor appeared at the door. I couldn't help but notice how none of them were alone. They had people, family, friends, someone to share the burden of waiting and worrying. Every hour I checked my phone, hoping for a message that my parents were on their way, or that Diana had rescheduled her gala. Instead, I saw my mother had posted photos of her getting her hair done for the evening's award dinner. Diana was sharing live updates of her charity event preparations. Adam had checked in at the concert venue. They were all going about their lives as if nothing significant was happening. As if Lily wasn't fighting for her future on an operating table. "You should eat something," Jason said around noon, offering me a sandwich from the cafeteria that I knew I wouldn't be able to swallow. "I can't," I replied, staring at my phone. "I just can't believe they're not here, Jason. She's their only granddaughter. How can a dinner or a concert be more important than this?" Jason's face hardened slightly. "This is who they are, Becca. I know you wanted to believe they'd show up when it really mattered, but I know." I cut him off. "I know who they are. I just didn't want to be right. Not about this." At 2:30 p.m., my phone rang and my heart leapt, until I saw it was Diana. "How's it going? Any updates?" she asked, the sounds of busy preparations evident in the background. "She's still in surgery," I replied flatly. "Has been for almost 6 hours now." 6 hours? Wow, that's a long time. "Listen, I can't talk long. The florist just arrived with the wrong centerpieces, and it's a complete disaster. But I wanted to check in. Send me a text when she's out." "Okay." I didn't even bother to respond before she hung up. Around 3 p.m., I noticed a woman about my age sitting alone across the room, her face etched with the same worry I felt. When our eyes met, she offered a small, understanding smile. During the next bathroom break, we ended up washing our hands side by side. "My son Tyler," she said, without prompting. "Spinal fusion surgery. He's 12. My daughter Lily," I replied. "She's 9. Spinal injury from gymnastics." Her name was Rachel, and somehow in the next few hours this stranger provided more comfort than my blood relatives had in years. We exchanged numbers before her son's doctor arrived with good news. "Family support is everything during recovery," she told me, as she prepared to go see her son. "If you need anything, even just to vent, call me." Finally, at 3:45 p.m., Dr. Wilson appeared in the doorway, still in his surgical scrubs. Jason and I jumped to our feet, hearts pounding. "The surgery went well," he said, and I felt my knees weaken with relief. "We successfully stabilized the vertebra and relieved the pressure on her spinal cord. There were no complications. She's in recovery now." "Will she? Will she be able to walk normally?" I managed to ask. I'm cautiously optimistic, he replied. The next 48 hours are critical, but the signs are promising. She's a strong little girl. When we were finally allowed to see her in the recovery room, Lily looked impossibly small among all the machines and tubes. Her face was pale, but her vitals were stable. I sat beside her bed, gently holding her hand while Jason called his parents with the update. I turned my phone off, then no longer interested in the virtual lives of my family who couldn't be bothered to be physically present when we needed them most. My focus narrowed to the only thing that truly mattered: the steady rise and fall of my daughter's chest, and the promise of her recovery. The days following Lily's surgery blurred together in a haze of hospital routines. Jason and I fell into a rhythm. One of us always at Lily's side while the other went home to shower change and handle necessary errands. The small pull-out chair beside her bed became our makeshift home, the beeping of monitors, our constant soundtrack. Lily's recovery was painful but promising. She woke disoriented the evening after surgery, her first words a groggy mommy-daddy. The relief of hearing her voice nearly brought me to my knees. "We're right here, sweetheart," I assured her carefully, stroking her hair away from her forehead. "The surgery went great. You're doing so well." Physical therapists began visiting on day 3, helping with small, careful movements to prevent stiffness without compromising her healing spine. Lily whimpered through the exercises, squeezing my hand so tightly I could feel my wedding ring cutting into my finger. "It hurts," she cried, during one particularly difficult session. "I don't want to do any more." "I know it hurts, Lilybug," I soothed. "But these exercises will help you get better faster. Remember what Dr. Wilson said about being brave. That being brave isn't about not feeling scared," she recited through tears. "It's about doing what you need to do even when you're scared." "That's my girl," I whispered, my heart swelling with pride at her resilience. On the 4th day, an enormous floral arrangement arrived, practically obscuring the nurse who delivered it. The card read, "Get well soon, Lily. Love Grandma and Grandpa Hayes." No visit, no call, just an ostentatious display of flowers that Lily couldn't even fully appreciate since she was still heavily medicated. "Are Grandma and Grandpa coming today?" Lily asked, hopefully, upon seeing the flowers. "I'm not sure, sweetheart," I answered, unwilling to make promises on their behalf that would likely be broken. The next day, a large teddy bear arrived from Diana and her family, along with a gift basket from Adam. The gifts felt like conscience salvers, tangible items to stand in for their actual presence. Meanwhile, Jason's parents drove 8 hours from Ohio, arriving with homemade meals, comfortable pillows from home, and genuine concern etched on their faces. They took turns sitting with Lily so Jason and I could nap in the family waiting room together. They asked questions during doctor rounds, taking notes and making sure we understood all the information being shared. "We're staying at that hotel across the street," my mother-in-law Barbara informed us. "We've booked it for 2 weeks, but we can extend if needed. Whatever you need, we're here." The contrast between our two families couldn't have been more stark. A week into Lily's hospital stay, I was scrolling through my phone during one of her naps when I saw my mother's social media post. "Having a wonderful time on our Alaskan cruise, much needed relaxation after Walter's big award night." The photos showed them smiling on the deck of a luxury liner, champagne glasses in hand. They hadn't even told me they were going on a cruise. Later that same day, Adam posted photos from a weekend party in Las Vegas with the caption, "What happens in Vegas?" But gets posted on social media anyway, number living my best life. The anger I'd been suppressing bubbled dangerously close to the surface. I showed the posts to Jason, who shook his head in disgust. "I think it's time to reconsider how much access your family has to our lives," he suggested gently. "This isn't just disappointing, Becca. It's hurtful, to you and to Lily." "Let's not make any big decisions right now," I replied, though a part of me knew he was right. "We're all under stress. After Lily's better, I'll deal with it." 2 days later, my parents finally called, via FaceTime from their cruise ship. "Hello, darling. We're calling to check on our favorite granddaughter," my mother trilled, the Alaskan coastline visible behind her. "How are you feeling, Lily?" Lily, still groggy from pain medication, mustered a small smile. "Hi, Grandma." "Hi, Grandpa." I had surgery on my back. "Yes, we heard all about it," my father said, adjusting his designer sunglasses. "Sounds like you're being very brave." The conversation lasted barely 5 minutes before my mother glanced at her diamond-encrusted watch. "Oh, we have to run, darlings. We have dinner reservations at the captain's table." "Such an honor. We'll call again soon." The screen went dark before I could even say goodbye. Lily's face fell slightly before she adjusted her expression. "They're on a really big boat," she observed quietly, turning her attention back to the animated movie playing on the small hospital TV. That moment crystallized something for me. My daughter was already learning to expect disappointment from people who should have been a source of unconditional love and support. She was learning to mask her hurt. The thought broke my heart and simultaneously strengthened my resolve to protect her from further disappointment. After 2 challenging weeks, Lily was finally cleared to go home. The discharge process came with detailed instructions, medication schedules, and physical therapy appointments 3 times a week. Dr. Wilson reviewed her progress and recovery plan with us. "She's doing remarkably well," he assured us. "Kids have an amazing ability to heal. Keep up with the PT, follow the activity restrictions, and we should see continued improvement." I created a detailed care schedule and converted our downstairs office into a temporary bedroom so Lily wouldn't have to navigate the stairs. Jason took family leave from his carpentry business, and his parents extended their hotel stay to help with housework and cooking. Friends and neighbors organized a meal train, dropping off home-cooked dinners and groceries. My boss, Michael, arranged for me to work remotely 3 days a week so I could attend Lily's therapy appointments. The community we'd built wrapped around us like a protective blanket. And then the medical bills started arriving. Even with insurance, our portion of the costs was staggering. The surgery, the 2-week hospital stay, the specialized equipment for home recovery, the ongoing physical therapy, it all added up to a financial burden that had Jason and I reviewing our budget late into the night after Lily was asleep. "We can use some of our savings," Jason suggested, rubbing his tired eyes. "And maybe I can pick up some weekend work once you're back in the office full-time." "We'll figure it out," I assured him, though worry gnawed at my stomach. "Lily's health is what matters. The rest is just logistics." We were making it work, focusing on Lily's improving mobility and celebrating small victories like her first steps without a walker. My family remained largely absent, occasional texts, asking for updates that I answered with increasingly brief responses. I told myself it didn't matter. We had all the support we needed. Then came the phone call that proved just how wrong I was about my family's capacity to shock me. 3 weeks after Lily's return home, my phone rang with my mother's ringtone. I almost didn't answer. Our brief conversations had grown increasingly strained as I struggled to hide my resentment over their absence during our crisis. But some lingering sense of duty made me pick up on the 4th ring. Rebecca, darling, my mother's voice, chimed through the speaker with artificial brightness. "How are things? When might we be seeing little Lily? We've been so busy with the summer social calendar, but we should arrange something soon." The casualness of her tone, as if she were suggesting a routine visit rather than finally seeing her granddaughter after major surgery, made my jaw clench. "Lily is still recovering, Mom," I replied, trying to keep my voice even. "She's making good progress, but she gets tired easily. Physical therapy 3 times a week is pretty draining for her." "Well, children are resilient, aren't they? I'm sure she'll bounce back in no time. Speaking of which, your father and I were just talking about her the other day. Such a shame we couldn't make it to the hospital, but you understand how these commitments work." I bit back a retort about exactly how well I understood their priorities and waited for her to continue. "Anyway, darling, the real reason I'm calling is about Timothy. He has the most exciting business opportunity. Truly groundbreaking. It's an app that connects pet owners with luxury pet services. The market research is extremely promising." I closed my eyes already, seeing where this conversation was heading. "That sounds interesting, Mom. I'm sure it'll work out well for him." "Well, that's just it," she continued, her voice taking on the persuasive tone I recognized from childhood when she wanted something. "He needs some investors to get it off the ground. Your father and I thought this would be the perfect opportunity for you to contribute to the family." "Contribute to the family," I repeated, confusion mixing with disbelief. "Yes, dear. Timothy needs $10,000 for development costs. We thought it would be wonderful if you could provide it. It would be such a meaningful gesture, especially given some of the tension in the family lately. A way of showing you're still committed to being part of the Hayes family." I almost dropped the phone. "Mom, we just paid for a major surgery and 2-week hospital stay. We're drowning in medical bills right now." She made a dismissive noise. "Oh, surely you have credit cards, Rebecca. It's just $10,000. You could pay it off over time. This is family we're talking about." This is Lily's health we're talking about, I countered, my voice rising despite my best efforts. Where was this concern for family when my daughter was having emergency spinal surgery? Now, Rebecca, her tone cooled considerably. There's no need for dramatics. We sent those lovely flowers, and we've been very supportive from afar. Everyone has obligations and priorities. Yes, I said slowly, the realization washing over me like ice water. Everyone does have priorities. And clearly, Lily and I aren't among yours. That's unfair, Rebecca. We're simply asking you to do your part for the family. This is Timothy's fourth entrepreneurial venture, and your father and I feel it's important he learns to secure funding from multiple sources. It's about teaching responsibility. The irony of her statement was so profound, I actually laughed. A sharp, disbelieving sound that seemed to echo in my kitchen. Let me get this straight, I said, struggling to control my voice. You want me to give Timothy, a 40-year-old man who has never successfully run a business, $10,000 that I don't have while I'm paying off my daughter's medical bills. And this is somehow teaching him responsibility? When you put it that way, it sounds quite harsh, my mother replied stiffly. I thought you'd be more supportive, especially given how generous your father and I have been with you over the years. Generous? I questioned. Mom, when have you ever helped us financially? We bought our house ourselves. We pay for Lily's school and activities ourselves. We've never asked you for money. Well, there was your education, which I paid for with scholarships and student loans that I only finished paying off 3 years ago, I interjected. Rebecca, her voice took on a warning tone I remembered from childhood disagreements. I'm disappointed in your attitude. This reluctance to help family suggests a selfishness I thought we'd raised you better than. Perhaps you should consider what refusing might mean for your relationship with the family moving forward. The threat was thinly veiled but unmistakable. Financial support for Timothy or familial exile. As if our relationship hung on this transaction rather than on love, respect, or basic decency. I laughed again this time from genuine amazement at the absurdity of the situation. Mom, my 9-year-old daughter had emergency spinal surgery and not one of you showed up. Not for the surgery, not during recovery, not even now. And you're calling me to demand money for Timothy's latest doomed business venture. The irony is actually impressive. I don't appreciate your tone or your characterization of the situation, she snapped. We're simply asking for a reasonable contribution to support family endeavors. The answer is no, I stated firmly. Not just because we literally cannot afford it, but because this entire conversation is revealing a dynamic I can no longer participate in. You'll regret this decision, Rebecca, she warned. Your father will be extremely disappointed. After ending the call, I sat at the kitchen table, shaking with a mixture of anger, hurt, and strangely relief. The mask had finally fallen completely away. There was a bizarre freedom in having the family dysfunction laid so bare that it could no longer be rationalized or excused. When Jason came home and found me still sitting there, I recounted the conversation in disbelieving detail. They've shown you who they are, he said gently, taking my hands in his. Maybe it's time to believe them. That night, a barrage of texts arrived from various family members. Diana expressed her disappointment in my lack of family commitment. Adam suggested I was being selfish considering all the family has done for me. My father's message was brief and cold. Your mother informed me of your decision. Family duty apparently means nothing to you. Timothy sent a long, guilt-laden message about how I was crushing his dreams and always thinking only of myself. As I read each message, I felt something inside me harden with resolve. The family I had longed for. The one that would show up in crisis, that would love unconditionally, that would put a child's well-being above appearances and convenience, didn't exist. It never had. And continuing to hope for it was only ensuring continued disappointment. Looking in on Lily, sleeping peacefully in her makeshift downstairs bedroom, her favorite stuffed elephant tucked under her arm, I made a decision. Some ties weren't worth preserving, no matter how much history or shared DNA they contained. I was reviewing Lily's physical therapy schedule the following Tuesday when my phone chimed with a banking alert. Unusual account access attempt detected. Please verify this activity. My stomach dropped as I clicked on the notification. Someone had attempted to access our joint savings account, the one containing what remained of our emergency fund after Lily's medical expenses. The attempt had been flagged as suspicious and automatically blocked. Jason, I called, my voice shaking slightly. Someone tried to get into our bank account. He looked up from where he was helping Lily with her reading practice, his expression immediately concerned. What, identity theft? I don't know, I replied, already dialing the bank's customer service number. After navigating the automated system and verifying my identity, I was informed that the bank needed to speak with me in person about the situation. Can you tell me anything about what happened? I pressed. I apologize, Miss Mitchell, but for security reasons, we need to discuss this matter at your local branch, the representative explained. Our records indicate someone attempted to gain access in person, not online. In person, a chill ran through me. This wasn't some random hacking attempt from overseas. This was someone physically trying to access our account. I'll be there first thing tomorrow, I promised, ending the call with a growing sense of unease. Jason arranged to stay home with Lily while I visited our local branch the next morning. The bank manager, Melissa Cooper, greeted me with a professional but concerned expression and led me to her private office. Mrs. Mitchell, thank you for coming in, so. Promptly, she began opening a file on her computer. We had an unusual situation yesterday that I wanted to discuss with you directly. A woman came to our branch claiming to be authorized on your accounts. When she couldn't provide the proper identification and authentication, she became quite insistent. What woman, I asked, though, a sickening suspicion was already forming. Melissa turned her computer screen toward me. We have security footage. Do you recognize this person? The screen showed the bank lobby from the previous day. Standing at the teller counter, gesturing emphatically, was my mother. That's my mother, I confirmed, my voice hollow with disbelief. Eleanor Hayes. Melissa nodded, her expression carefully neutral. Mrs. Hayes claimed you had authorized her to withdraw funds for a family emergency. When our teller requested proper documentation of this authorization, she became agitated. She stated that, as your mother, she shouldn't need authorization to access her daughter's accounts. I closed my eyes, briefly, mortification washing over me. I never authorized her to access my accounts. Never. That's what our security protocols determined, Melissa assured me. But there's more. After being refused, Mrs. Hayes filed a formal complaint against our branch. She slid a printed document across the desk. It was a complaint form with my mother's elegant handwriting. In it, she claimed I had explicitly promised funds for an urgent family business matter and that the bank was obstructing a previously arranged family financial agreement. This is completely fabricated, I stated, pushing the paper back across the desk. There was no agreement. In fact, I explicitly refused to give her money just days ago. Melissa nodded. We suspected as much, which is why we contacted you directly. However, we need to formally document your response to protect both you and the bank. For the next half hour, I completed paperwork confirming I had not authorized anyone to access my accounts and requesting additional security measures. Melissa showed me more of the security footage where my mother could be seen demanding to speak to managers and threatening to move substantial family accounts if she wasn't accommodated. Is there anything else I should be concerned about? I asked, signing the last form. You might want to check your credit reports and place a security freeze, if you're concerned, Melissa advised, and perhaps have a conversation with your family about financial boundaries. I almost laughed at the understatement. This wasn't about boundaries. This was about betrayal. When I returned home, my phone showed 7 missed calls. 3 from my mother, 2 from my father, 1 from Diana, and 1 from Timothy. The voicemail notifications blinked accusingly. With shaking hands, I played them back on speaker so Jason could hear. My mother's voice was cold with indignation. Rebecca, I cannot believe the embarrassment you've caused. That bank teller treated me like a criminal when I was simply trying to resolve our family matter efficiently. Call me immediately. My father's message was brief but threatening. Your mother told me about the bank situation. This childish behavior stops now, Rebecca. We need to discuss consequences. Diana's voice dripped with condescension. Becca, whatever game you're playing needs to stop. Mom is beside herself, and you know how her migraines get when she's upset. We're all tired of you always putting yourself first. Timothy's message was the longest and most aggressive. Thanks for humiliating my mom at your bank, Rebecca. Real classy. That investment opportunity won't wait forever, you know. You're literally ruining my dreams right now because you're being selfish. I thought you were better than this. I sat heavily on the couch, the phone dropping from my hand. Jason settled beside me, his expression a mixture of disbelief and anger. They're completely delusional, he said finally. Your mother tried to commit fraud and somehow they're making you the villain. It's how it's always been, I replied, a strange calm settling over me. I just never saw it this clearly before. Over the next few hours, more messages arrived. Extended family members I rarely spoke with sent texts asking why I was causing problems and refusing to help Timothy. It became clear that my parents had been sharing their version of events widely, a version where I had promised money and then cruelly reneged, embarrassing my poor mother at the bank out of spite. How do they even believe this? Jason wondered, as I showed him a particularly nasty message from a second cousin I hadn't seen in years. Don't they know you at all? They know the version of me they created, I realized. The difficult daughter who never follows family expectations. The narrative fits what they already believe, so they accept it without question. That evening, as we were preparing dinner, there was a sharp knock at our front door. Through the peephole, I saw my sister Diana standing on the porch, her expression stern. When I opened the door, she pushed past me without waiting for an invitation. "We need to talk, Rebecca. This has gone far enough." "Hello to you too, Diana," I replied, closing the door. "I see concern for your niece's recovery brought you by." "Oh wait, this is your first visit since her surgery 6 weeks ago." Diana flushed but pressed on. "This isn't about Lily. This is about you humiliating Mom and refusing to help Timothy when the family needs you." "This is absolutely about Lily," I countered. "And about Mom trying to access my bank account without permission after I already said no to giving Timothy money we don't have because we're paying for Lily's medical care. Mom was just trying to expedite things," Diana defended. "You know how she is. She likes to handle matters efficiently. And it's not like $10,000 is such an enormous amount. It is when you're paying off medical bills for a child's spinal surgery. A surgery none of you bothered to show up for," I replied, my voice rising, despite my efforts to stay calm. Diana waved her hand dismissively. "We sent gifts. We called. Not everyone can drop everything for hospital visits." "Drop everything," I echoed incredulously. Like what, a charity gala, a cruise, a concert, my 9-year-old daughter could have been paralyzed. "You're being dramatic as usual," Diana sighed. "Lily is fine. Now about Timothy's business." "Get out!" I interrupted, surprising both of us with the steel in my voice. "Get out of my house right now!" Diana blinked, clearly unaccustomed to being spoken to this way by her younger sister. "Excuse me. You heard me. Get out. I'm done with this conversation, and frankly, I might be done with this entire family." For a moment, Diana looked genuinely startled, perhaps finally registering the depth of my anger. Then her expression hardened again. "You'll regret this, Rebecca. Cutting off family is something you can't take back." As I closed the door behind her, I wondered if she realized she had just articulated exactly what I was afraid of, and yet for the first time I was more afraid of maintaining these toxic relationships than I was of ending them. The weekend following Diana's visit, I received a text from my father that wasn't a request, but a summons family meeting. Our house. Sunday at 2 p.m. Be there. No acknowledgement of the bank incident, no mention of Lily's recovery, just a command to appear as if I were still a child under his authority. My first instinct was to refuse to end this cycle of manipulation without further engagement. But a part of me knew I needed closure. A clear-eyed confrontation where I could speak my truth without the shield of phone calls or text messages. "I'm going," I told Jason that evening. "But I'm not going alone." "Of course I'll come with you," he immediately replied. "But are you sure this is a good idea? They're not exactly in a reasonable frame of mind." "That's why I need to do this," I explained. "I need to say my piece directly with witnesses so there's no room for them to twist my words or intentions later. And then, I think I need to be done." The gravity of what I was considering, cutting ties with my entire family of origin, wasn't lost on me. Despite everything, these were the people who had been present for my entire life. The thought of permanently severing those connections left me with a hollow ache in my chest. Jason's parents agreed to stay with Lily during the meeting. As we prepared to leave on Sunday, Lily looked up from her coloring book with concern in her eyes. "Are you and Daddy going to make up with Grandma and Grandpa Hayes?" she asked innocently. I knelt beside her, choosing my words carefully. "We're going to have an important talk with them. Sometimes adults need to have serious conversations about the way they treat each other. Like when Emma and I had a fight at school and Miss Patterson made us talk it out," she suggested. Something like that. I smiled, sadly, marveling at her perceptiveness. Except adult problems can be more complicated. "Will everything be okay?" She pressed her small face serious. I refused to lie to her. "I don't know, sweetheart. But whatever happens, you, me, and Daddy will be okay. That I promise." The drive to my parents' house was silent, both of us lost in thought. As we pulled into the circular driveway of the imposing colonial where I'd grown up, I noticed every family member's car was already there. They were waiting for us. Eleanor opened the door before we could ring the bell, her expression cool and evaluative as she took in our appearance. "You're late," she noted, though we were only 2 minutes past the appointed time. "Hello to you too, Mom," I replied evenly, stepping inside with Jason close behind me. The others were gathered in the formal living room, my father standing by the fireplace, in a power pose I recognized from childhood scoldings, Diana and Eric seated primly on the sofa, Adam sprawled in an armchair looking bored, and Timothy pacing by the windows. "Let's get straight to the point," my father began without preamble. "This family crisis has gone on long enough. Rebecca, your behavior has been unacceptable." "My behavior," I repeated, remaining standing even as my mother gestured toward empty seats. "Let's clarify which behavior you find unacceptable. Is it that I refused to give Timothy $10,000 while paying my daughter's medical bills? Or is it that I didn't appreciate Mom trying to fraudulently access my bank account?" Timothy immediately jumped in. "It wasn't fraud, you promised." "I never promised you anything," I interrupted firmly. "I explicitly said no when Mom asked for money for your business venture." "A venture that could benefit the entire family," my mother added smoothly. "Your stubbornness is preventing family prosperity." I shook my head in disbelief. "Let me show you something." I removed a folder from my bag and began laying papers on the coffee table. "These are Lily's medical bills. This one is for the emergency room visit. This one is for the spinal surgery. This is for the 2-week hospital stay. These are for ongoing physical therapy." The stack of papers grew, each one representing thousands of dollars. My family glanced at them with varying degrees of discomfort, but no real interest. "We're not unsympathetic to Lily's medical situation," my father said dismissively. "But that's what insurance is for." "Insurance doesn't cover everything," Jason spoke up, his voice controlled but firm. "We're talking about tens of thousands of dollars out of pocket. Which is precisely why you should consider the potential returns of Timothy's business opportunity," my mother interjected. "Financial growth is important during trying times." I stared at her, truly seeing the disconnection from reality. "Mom, Timothy has started and failed 3 businesses already. Each one funded by you and Dad. What makes you think this one will be different?" Timothy flushed angrily. "That's completely unfair. Those ventures were learning experiences. This one has solid market research behind it. The point is, Diana cut in family, supports family. We've all made sacrifices for the greater good of the Hayes name." "Have you?" I challenged her. "What exactly have you sacrificed?" "Diana, Mom, and Dad paid for your Ivy League education, your lavish wedding, the down payment on your house. They funded your husband's law practice startup." "That was different," she insisted. "Those were investments in success." "And Lily's health isn't worth investing in?" I asked quietly. An uncomfortable silence fell over the room. "No one is saying the child's health isn't important," my father finally said. "But your theatrical performances about her surgery are disproportionate. Children have medical issues all the time. They recover." "Theatrical performances," I echoed, my voice rising, despite my best efforts. "None of you showed up. Not one of you was there when she was wheeled into a 7-hour surgery. Not one of you visited during her 2-week hospital stay. You were on a cruise, for God's sake." "We sent flowers," my mother countered weakly. "Flowers," I repeated flatly. "Lily needed her grandparents, her aunt, her uncles, and you sent flowers while posting vacation photos." Adam, who had been unusually quiet, finally spoke. "Look, we all have our own lives, Becca. You can't expect everyone to drop everything because Lily had surgery." "That's exactly what family does," Jason interjected, his patience clearly wearing thin. "You drop everything for major life events, emergencies, illnesses, celebrations. That's the entire point of family." "You wouldn't understand our family dynamics," Diana said dismissively to Jason. "You're not a Hayes." "Thank God for that," he muttered. My father cleared his throat authoritatively. "This meeting isn't about rehashing perceived slights. It's about resolving the current situation and moving forward. Rebecca, we expect you to make amends for the bank incident and reconsider Timothy's business proposal." I looked around the room at each face. These people who shared my blood but seemed incapable of understanding basic empathy or reciprocal support. In that moment, I saw with perfect clarity that nothing would ever change. This pattern would repeat indefinitely unless I chose to break it. "No," I said simply. No, my father repeated clearly, unaccustomed to such direct refusal. No, I confirmed. I will not apologize for protecting my bank account from unauthorized access. I will not give Timothy money we don't have. And most importantly, I will not continue participating in relationships that are consistently one-sided and harmful. My mother's face paled. What exactly are you saying, Rebecca? I'm saying I'm done, I replied, surprising myself with how steady my voice remained. I've spent my entire life hoping for a family that would show up when it mattered, that would love unconditionally rather than transactionally. Lily's surgery was the final test of that hope, and you all failed spectacularly. This is ridiculous melodrama, Diana scoffed. You can't just declare yourself done with your family. Actually, I can, I corrected her. Being related by blood doesn't give you the right to manipulate, gaslight, or exploit me. It doesn't excuse your absence when my child needed her family. It doesn't justify attempting to access my bank account without permission. Timothy stood up angrily. So you're just going to abandon your family because we didn't sit in some hospital waiting room because Mom tried to help facilitate a business transaction you were being difficult about? I'm choosing to protect myself and my daughter from people who have repeatedly shown us we don't matter unless we're providing something useful to them, I clarified. I'm choosing to surround Lily with people who show up, who care, who support without conditions. My father's face had turned an alarming shade of red. If you walk out that door with this attitude, Rebecca, don't expect to be welcomed back. The Hayes family does not tolerate disloyalty. I almost laughed at how perfectly his threat encapsulated the problem. That's exactly the issue, Dad. You see setting healthy boundaries as disloyalty. You see refusing exploitation as betrayal. After everything we've done for you, my mother began, tears welling in her eyes. Tears I recognized from childhood as a tactical maneuver rather than genuine emotion. What exactly have you done for me? I asked quietly. When have you ever put my needs or Lily's needs ahead of your comfort or convenience? The silence that followed was deafening. That's what I thought, I said, gathering the medical bills back into my folder. Jason and I are leaving now. I'll be taking some time away from all of you to focus on what truly matters: my daughter's recovery and our family's well-being. You'll regret this, Diana warned as we moved toward the door. When you come crawling back, don't expect open arms. That's the thing, I replied, pausing at the threshold. For the first time, I'm more afraid of staying in these toxic relationships than I am of leaving them. As Jason and I walked to our car, the shouting began behind us. Accusations, threats, manipulations, all blending into a cacophony that only reinforced my decision. I slid into the passenger seat, physically and emotionally exhausted, but somehow lighter than I'd felt in years. Are you okay? Jason asked gently as we drove away. No, I admitted. But I think I will be. 6 months have passed since that final confrontation in my parents' living room. 6 months of silence from the Hayes family, broken only by occasional flying monkeys, distant relatives or family friends dispatched to report how hurt my parents are, how I've torn the family apart, how I should reconsider my hasty decision. I expected to feel more grief over the estrangement. Instead, I've experienced something unexpected: relief. The constant anxiety of trying to please people who could never be pleased, the walking on eggshells, the bracing for criticism or manipulation, it's all gone. In its place is a quieter, more authentic life. Lily has made remarkable progress in her recovery. Her physical therapist recently told us she's among the most determined patients they've ever treated. She's back to most normal activities, though competitive gymnastics is behind her. A loss she mourned, but has begun to accept. She's discovered a new passion for swimming, which is gentler on her healing spine. Explaining our family situation to Lily was one of the hardest conversations I've ever had. How do you tell a child that sometimes the people who should love us the most are incapable of showing that love in healthy ways? Grandma and Grandpa Hayes, Aunt Diana, Uncle Adam, and Uncle Timothy won't be visiting for a while, I explained to her carefully. Sometimes adults need to take breaks from each other when their relationships aren't healthy. Like a timeout, she asked, her perception cutting straight to the heart of it. Kind of, I smiled. A very long timeout while everyone thinks about how they want to treat each other. Are they mad because they didn't come see me in the hospital? She asked, surprising me with her insight. No, sweetheart. They're mad because I'm asking them to treat us with more love and respect than they're used to giving, and that's hard for them to understand. With the recommendation of Lily's pediatrician, we found Dr. Amelia Foster, a family therapist who specializes in helping children understand family estrangement. With her guidance, Lily has been processing her feelings about the sudden absence of her maternal relatives. It's okay to miss people even when they didn't treat us well, Dr. Foster explained in one of our sessions. And it's okay to love people from a distance when being close to them hurts us. I've struggled with my own complex emotions. Grief for the family. I wished I had anger at their behavior, guilt over breaking the family despite knowing intellectually that I didn't cause this situation. I joined a support group for adults who've had to cut ties with toxic family members, finding solace in stories similar to mine and guidance from those further along in their healing journeys. The unexpected blessing in all of this has been the strengthening of our chosen family. Natalie, my best friend since college, has stepped into the role of honorary aunt to Lily with enthusiasm. She comes over weekly for movie nights, helps with school projects, and recently took Lily shopping for back-to-school clothes, the kind of consistent, loving presence every child deserves. Jason's parents have embraced being Lily's only active grandparents, driving down from Ohio at least once a month. They attended Lily's end-of-year school performance, cheering loudly, and bringing her a bouquet of her favorite sunflowers. A small gesture that brought tears to my eyes as I remembered all the performances my own parents had been too busy to attend. Our neighborhood community has remained steadfast. The Johnsons next door still bring over cookies every Sunday. Rachel, the mother I met in the hospital waiting room, has become a close friend. Our families now celebrate holidays together, creating new traditions to replace the strained performance-based gatherings of my childhood. My boss, Michael, not only accommodated my flexible schedule during Lily's recovery, but quietly organized a company fundraiser that helped with a significant portion of our medical bills. When I tried to thank him, he simply said, "This is what people do for each other, Rebecca. No strings attached." That phrase, "no strings attached," has become something of a mantra in our household. We're learning what true support looks like, what genuine love feels like when it doesn't come with conditions or expectations of repayment. Jason and I have had long talks about family, what we experienced growing up and what we want for Lily. We've made conscious decisions about breaking generational patterns of conditional love and emotional manipulation. We've committed to creating a home where feelings are acknowledged, boundaries are respected, and love is consistent. "Do you think they'll ever change?" Jason asked me one night as we sat on our back porch watching the sunset after Lily had gone to bed. "I don't know," I answered honestly. "People can change if they want to badly enough. But first they have to recognize there's something wrong with their behavior." My family still believes they're the victims in this story. Just last week I received a text from Diana. Mom's birthday dinner is next month. She's willing to let bygones be bygones if you and Lily attend. Think about it. No acknowledgement of the underlying issues, no apology, just an expectation that I should be grateful for the chance to re-enter the fold as if nothing had happened. I didn't respond. The hardest lesson I've learned through all of this is that sometimes the family we're born into isn't capable of being what we need. The bravest thing we can do is acknowledge that reality and create boundaries that protect our well-being and our children's well-being, even when those boundaries are painful to establish. Lily celebrated her 10th birthday last month with a pool party at the community center. Surrounded by friends, neighbors, Jason's family, and our chosen family, she laughed and played and blew out candles on a cake shaped like a dolphin. Not once did she ask about her missing grandparents or aunt and uncles. Their absence has ceased to be noticeable in our daily lives, a realization that brings both sadness and peace. As for Timothy's pet services app, I heard through the grapevine that my parents funded it themselves. It launched with great fanfare and shut down 3 months later due to unforeseen market conditions. Some patterns never change. I don't know what the future holds for our relationship with the Hayes family. I've left the door cracked open for genuine reconciliation, the kind that would require acknowledgement of harm, sincere apologies, and changed behavior. But I'm no longer putting my life on hold waiting for that change to happen. Instead, I'm focusing on the family we've created and chosen, the people who show up, who love without conditions, who support without keeping score. I'm focusing on Lily's healing, both physical and emotional. I'm focusing on my own growth, learning to recognize my worth beyond what I can provide to others. If there's one thing this journey has taught me, it's that true family isn't defined by blood or legal ties. It's defined by consistent love, by presence in both crises, and celebrations by respect for boundaries, and by the security of knowing you matter for who you are, not what you can provide. To anyone watching who's struggling with toxic family dynamics, know that you're not alone. Setting boundaries isn't selfish. It's necessary for your well-being and the well-being of those who depend on you. You deserve relationships that build you up rather than drain you. Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family members? How did you handle it? Share your stories in the comments below. Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Don't forget to like this video if it resonated with you and subscribe for more content about navigating complex family relationships. Thank you for being part of this journey with me, and remember, sometimes the bravest thing we can do is choose ourselves.